A new alien species has finally been born, crawling towards its mother to suckle. Such a warm scene, yet it feels eerie to people. This is an excellent sci-fi thriller. The film's timeline is set between the first and second installments of Alien. An unmanned spacecraft opened its hatch to retrieve an unidentified object. It was encased in a rigid shell. A group of people transported it to a space station for research. The space station belongs to Weyland-Yutani, the megacorporation of the Alien series. It also built the entire Alien universe. The scene shifts to the film's protagonist Rhea. She lives on the Jackson colony planet. Rhea is forced to work for the company every day. Many people have stood up against this enslavement. Various protest slogans echoed in the streets. Rhea has accumulated enough working hours and just wants to leave the colony planet. She wants to start a new life in Iwaja with her brother Andy. The staff refused to terminate her contract. They planned to transfer Rhea to a mine and even extend her working hours to 5 years. As Rhea was about to argue, she noticed Andy was in trouble. She rushed over to chase away the people bullying her brother. Rhea immediately rebooted Andy. It turned out that her brother was a synthetic human. At this moment, her good friend Tyler called, asking them to come meet him. The 6 of them squeezed into Tyler's room to talk. Last night, while loading the last batch of cargo, they intercepted a signal. The signal originated from an abandoned space station. Tyler believed that, instead of waiting for travel permits, they should go treasure hunting in the abandoned space station. They might have a chance to leave Jackson. Rhea stated that it would take 9 years to reach Iwaja. They would need to enter cryosleep capsules. She thought the abandoned space station didn't have such equipment, but her friends said that, according to the hyperspace link, the ship had capsules. However, to safely enter and exit the ship, they needed Andy's help, because he was a synthetic human, produced by the company. He was fluent in languages, and could communicate with the ship. Bjorn understood that Rhea didn't want to take risks, and said he wanted to borrow Andy's assistance.
I'm not sending my brother up there alone.
He's not your brother though, is he? Go on, shop. He's not your brother, he's just where you damaged goods that your dad found in the trash.
Rhea ignored him and prepared to leave, but Tyler caught up and questioned Rhea. Are you going to follow in your parents' footsteps and die on this dark mining planet? In the end, Rhea agreed to join them. They piloted the cargo ship towards their destination. They flew through the clouds and left the Jackson colony planet. Rhea closed her eyes to feel the sun. At this moment, the pilot Navarro suddenly spoke up. A massive space station came into view. Navarro maneuvered the cargo ship closer, and the control panel issued a collision warning. It turned out that the space station was about to collide with an asteroid shortly, so they had to act quickly. Rhea was worried about her brother's safety, but Andy's only directive in his system was to do the best for Rhea. Tyler and Bjorn brought Andy to the docking hatch. Andy inserted his finger into the lock and successfully opened the airlock of the space station. The 3 of them carefully entered. A dead mouse floated in the air. Clearly, there was no gravity inside the space station, but soon, the mouse fell to the floor. Navarro explained that the gravity generator in the space station was in intermittent activation mode. This would prevent the entire place from exploding. The 3 climbed out of the duct, officially entering the space station. They floated in a state of zero gravity. Soon, they found the remaining capsules, but the gravity fluctuated, disappearing and reappearing, which was quite torturous. Andy operated the platform, reactivating the various systems of the space station. Tyler went to check the capsules, but unfortunately, there wasn't enough fuel inside. At most, it could only maintain a 3-year sleep state, but it would take 9 years to reach Iwaja. At this moment, Tyler scanned for a cryogenic storage area. He speculated that there might be fuel inside. The 3 headed towards the cryogenic storage area. During this time, Bjorn constantly ordered Andy around. Rhea couldn't understand why he was targeting her brother. Navarro explained that a few years ago, there was a gas leak in the mine. A synthetic human ordered the mine to be shut down for safety. Bjorn's mother suffocated, which is why he held a bias against all synthetic humans. As soon as he finished speaking, the capsule from Tyler arrived at the cargo ship. Navarro skillfully completed the handover. With precise operations, another girl, Kay, suddenly vomited. Navarro told Rhea to take care of her. She went to check the capsule, but Rhea soon realized that Kay was pregnant. Kay hid the matter because she was afraid of worrying everyone. The scene shifted back to Tyler's side. As they walked through the corridor, a painting flashed on the wall. The painting was The Plague of Marseille, by the French artist Michel Serra. The director gave a close-up of the painting. In the painting, a baby lay on its deceased mother's body, suckling from her lifeless breast. This scene was a crucial clue. At this moment, a cold electronic voice echoed, "Welcome to the Renaissance Space Station." The space station was composed of Romulus and Remus, named after a pair of twins in ancient Roman mythology. They were the founders of the city of Rome. The name of the space station reveals Wayland Corporation's ambition. They aim to conduct a cosmic renaissance. Without further ado, let's return to the plot. Bjorn couldn't help but tell Andy that Iwaja did not accept synthetic humans. So, after Andy escorted the sleep capsule to Iwaja, he would have to leave.
That's okay. If this was best for Rain, it's what's best for me.
Kay comforted Rhea, telling her not to be sad. In fact, Andy had no interest in going to Iwaja. After all, he was not human and had no emotions. The three entered an abandoned laboratory. Bjorn continued to provoke Andy. Andy grabbed him, and Bjorn thought Andy was going to hit him. In fact, Andy was just warning him to watch out for the hole behind him. At this moment, Andy saw a body on one side. Bjorn saw that the deceased was a synthetic human, and felt a bit relieved, but Tyler sensed something was wrong, and suggested they act quickly. The cryogenic storage chamber was at the back of the laboratory. Andy opened the electronic lock, and the three entered to search. Tyler found a 45-kilogram fuel reserve, enough to take them all to Iwaja. As they pulled the fuel, an alarm was triggered. The hatch behind them suddenly closed, and the electronic lock indicated that Andy had no access. At this moment, no one noticed the flickering images of Facehugger. On the screen not far away, Navarro and Rhea entered the space station to assist. Rhea approached the synthetic human's body. If its module was still operational, she could transfer the authorization to Andy. The scene then shifted to a screen, displaying sample completed, 36 pause print. Next, a whole wall of vacuum-sealed Facehugger appeared in the cryogenic chamber. It turned out that the Remus section of the space station had been researching 3D printing Facehugger. At that moment, Rhea was focused on examining the body. The synthetic human suddenly grabbed her arm, pleading for Rhea to help retrieve the module. Navarro quickly assisted. As they removed a chip, they instructed Tyler to place it into Andy's module, which he operated as requested. Unexpectedly, Andy fell into a back-end lockout state. Rhea reassured them not to panic. He was rebooting. He would return to normal in a few minutes. Hearing this, Tyler continued to move the fuel. Unbeknownst to them, a Facehugger awakened from its slumber, lurking close in the water. Tyler sensed something lurking beneath the water. The next second, a Facehugger swam towards Bjorn. It grabbed him and pulled him into the water. The Facehugger ambushed Bjorn, clinging to his head. Bjorn managed to throw it off. The Facehugger wouldn't give up and turned to attack Tyler. The Facehugger tried to insert its tentacles into Tyler's mouth. Bjorn attacked with a stun baton, accidentally knocking Tyler unconscious. The Facehugger was unharmed. It hid in the water, springing out to ambush. Rhea tried to smash the hatch, but it remained undamaged. The Facehugger aimed to lunge at the unconscious Tyler. Andy suddenly grabbed it and threw it against the wall. More and more Facehuggers began to awaken. Tyler immediately urged Andy to open the hatch. The three hurriedly escaped the cryogenic chamber. However, a large group of Facehuggers crawled out from the gaps. Even though Andy closed the second airlock, one Facehugger managed to latch onto Navarro. Its tentacles constricted around her neck, but Andy noticed that the Facehugger wasn't killing Navarro.
Dilatation of those bladders and its synchronization to her breathing patterns. I surmise is feeding her oxygen to keep her alive.
After rebooting, Andy completed his upgrade, enhancing his intelligence and physical abilities. However, one ability was severely weakened: his humanity. Now, Andy was like a machine. He stopped Bjorn from trying to stun the Facehugger. He explained that the current would cause it to tighten its muscles, breaking Navarro's neck. Rhea asked if there was any way to help, but Andy's database had no relevant information. Though he didn't know the details, the scientist should be aware. Andy linked the synthetic human's body to the computer, successfully activating it and displaying the name Rook. Here's a little Easter egg. Rook looks just like Ash from Alien. However, the actor passed away in 2020, so Rook's scenes were entirely created with CGI. At this moment, he was saying, "Must protect Z01 material." Andy had to tell him, "Your mission has failed." Rook stated that the parasite had implanted a substance into Navarro's body. It would absorb the human DNA and grow inside Navarro. Tyler expressed confusion at this. "What do you mean something will grow?" Rook looked up at the hole above them. Their hunted dead xenomorph XX-121. Its body still had a hook attached. In fact, this xenomorph is the one shot by Ripley at the end of Alien, and then discarded into space. It is also the fossil xenomorph, retrieved by the ship at the beginning of the film, and sent to the space station for study. During the research, it suddenly awakened, leading to the station's downfall. At this moment, Rhea thought of a way to save Navarro. They could use cryogenic fuel to freeze the base of the Facehugger's tail. The group immediately began testing. Unexpectedly, this method actually worked.
Get it up, get it up!
Tyler drove away the Facehugger, and Navarro regained consciousness. But Rook believed that things weren't that simple. Navarro might have already been parasitized. He told Andy that humans are easily controlled by emotions. You must help them escape. After weighing his options, Andy considered abandoning Navarro. Bjorn immediately knocked him away. He wanted to pull Navarro back to the cargo ship. Rhea felt helpless. She wanted to remove the upgrade chip to return Andy to his original state. But this time, Andy did not obey her orders. Andy chased after Bjorn, but the latter closed the hatch. He instructed Navarro to disconnect the ship, trapping Andy and the others outside the airlock.
What is he doing? They can't just leave without us.
He thinks Andy's trying to kill Navarro.
Although Rhea didn't understand why Andy was doing this, Navarro had definitely changed. Tyler urged Bjorn to open the hatch, but Bjorn insisted they abandon Andy first. At this moment, Navarro in the control room experienced a spasm of pain. She picked up the scanner she had found in the space station to check. Navarro discovered a struggling creature inside her body. Kay next to her was terrified. Navarro collapsed on the ground, convulsing. She kicked the control lever beside her, causing the cargo ship to detach from the Remus module. Kay shouted for help, but the creature quickly burst out of her body. The next second, they crashed into flammable materials, causing an explosion. The flames propelled the cargo ship several meters away. When Bjorn reached the cockpit, he saw a small xenomorph emerge from Navarro's chest. This form of the xenomorph was called a Chestburster. The next second, the cargo ship collided with the space station and slid into the Romulus hangar. The massive hatch closed. Tyler had to go rescue his friends, but the explosion had caused the station's axis to shift. They were about to collide with an asteroid belt. Tyler and Rhea headed towards the Romulus module. Meanwhile, Rook desperately crawled to a machine to check the integrity of the Z01 material. The result showed that the storage integrity was at 2%. What exactly is this Z01 material? The answer was hidden within the Romulus module. Tyler and Rhea were blocked outside the module. Rhea was about to ask Andy how to get in when she realized he hadn't followed. Rook had summoned Andy and changed his top directive to escort the Z01 back to the colony. Hearing this, Andy went to regroup with Rhea. The Romulus module was swarming with facehuggers. Fortunately, these parasites had no eyes. They relied on sound and body heat to locate their targets. As long as they raised the room temperature and remained quiet, they could avoid the facehuggers' attacks. Andy raised the room temperature to their body heat level and reminded Rhea and Tyler pressure, panic, and other emotions would raise their body temperature, so they needed to stay calm. The three cautiously avoided the facehuggers' movements. The corpse hanging overhead startled Rhea. Fortunately, she didn't make a sound. Just as the three of them were carefully moving forward, Kay woke up from her unconsciousness. She looked around and saw the shed skin on the ground. There was also a xenomorph cocoon on the wall. The next second, Bjorn covered Kay's mouth, signaling her to be quiet. Then, he jabbed the stun baton into the xenomorph nest. A stream of corrosive liquid sprayed out. Kay tried to pull Bjorn away, but he was pierced by a hooked object. Then, the corrosive liquid burned Bjorn to death. The xenomorph was about to emerge. Kay rushed to the hatch to call for help. Fortunately, Tyler received the signal. He instructed Kay to find the key to open the door. At this moment, the xenomorph had fully matured. Kay found the key, but her foot slipped, and she fell out. Her scream transmitted through the communicator to Tyler. This moment caught the attention of the facehuggers. Andy shouted for them to run. The three of them ran wildly ahead. Tyler threw a flare to divert the facehuggers. Meanwhile, Andy closed the second hatch. Tyler slid into the door. At this moment, there were only 30 minutes left until the collision. Andy led the two of them onward. Meanwhile, Kay was awakened by a sprinkler. She clutched her stomach and tried to leave, but she realized that a xenomorph was right above her. Kay waited silently for it to leave. Then, she wanted to escape, but she didn't have permission to open the door. In a moment of crisis, Tyler and the others arrived. Rhea urged Andy to open the door to save Kay, but he saw the xenomorph behind the door. Now, Andy's humanity was weakened, and he determined that not opening the door was the safest choice, because if he opened the door, the xenomorph would come out. So he ignored their pleas. The xenomorph pierced through Kay's body. Rhea couldn't help but slap Andy. The person before her felt like a stranger.
What's your prime directive?
I'm afraid I have a new directive. To do what's best for the company.
Rhea wanted to remove the chip from his module, but now, Andy was no longer following instructions. He reminded them that they had to leave before the xenomorph escaped. As long as they completed Rook's assigned task, they could still go to Awaja, while he would return to Jackson. Soon after, the three arrived at the Romulus laboratory. If the Remus module was responsible for producing facehuggers and studying the original xenomorph, then Romulus was responsible for researching Blackwater, which was the Z01 material Rook referred to. It is well known that human colonies are suffering from extreme heat and disease. Such a fragile workforce cannot meet the ambitions of Wayland Corporation, so they used xenomorphs to develop a synthetic Blackwater that alters human genes. Rook called it the Fire of Prometheus. He said that this is a gift bestowed by God upon humanity. Just as Andy was leaving with the Blackwater, Rhea saw through the monitor that the path was blocked by xenomorphs. Andy took out a pulse rifle. He instructed Tyler to teach Rhea how to use it. He prepared to leave via the conveyor belt, so he reminded the two of them. Although the gun had 450 rounds, they couldn't shoot indiscriminately, because the acidic blood inside the xenomorph would burn through the conveyor belt, causing a decompression. In that case, all three of them would die. This gun could only be used to scare the creatures. After the three entered the conveyor belt, they found that the facehuggers in the vacuum-sealed boxes had escaped, and the entire conveyor belt had turned into a xenomorph nest. They were about to leave this place when Tyler suddenly heard Kay's voice. He ran into the xenomorph nest, and Rhea followed him in. The nest was filled with the bodies of the space station personnel. Finally, they found Kay deep inside. However, the girl had lost too much blood and was in critical condition. Andy handed over a vial of synthetic Blackwater. Although this substance had only been tested on white mice, it was the best option now. Tyler was about to inject Kay, but Andy quickly stopped him. He suggested placing Kay in the cryogenic chamber to temporarily preserve her life. This move was very wise, because all those test mice had died. A small piece of animal fur adhered to the body of the monster. The three immediately moved with Kay. During this, they passed through a layer of blue laser membrane. This blue light could sense external object intrusions, awakening the xenomorph eggs. The next second, a xenomorph ambushed them. In a critical moment, Tyler stood in front of the two girls. He was lifted directly by the xenomorph. During this, Andy was knocked down. Tyler was captured in front of the xenomorph. More and more xenomorphs appeared. Rhea didn't have time to save Andy. She could only drag Kay into the elevator, but she couldn't give up on Andy, so she instructed Kay that this elevator led to the ship. The autopilot would take her back to the colony. As long as she had the Blackwater, no one would harm her. After telling Kay this, Rhea returned to save Andy. Meanwhile, Kay suddenly felt a sharp pain in her abdomen. To hold on, she risked injecting the Blackwater. On the other side, Rhea returned to the xenomorph nest. She found Andy. Rhea removed the chip from behind his ear. She helped Andy regain himself. At this moment, there were only 10 minutes left until the asteroid collision. The xenomorphs quickly pursued them. The two ran to the airlock. Now, Andy had no more clearance. Rhea pleaded with Rook to help them open the door, but he refused. Meanwhile, Kay finally returned to the ship. One side of the remote control buttons was flashing continuously. Then, Rook appeared on the screen. He told Kay to press the button, and he would control the ship to take her away. Just as Kay hesitated, Rhea realized they had no way out. She grasped Andy's hand, waiting for death to arrive. Suddenly, Rhea thought of a plan. She got up and turned off the gravity generator. Andy steadied her body from behind. The xenomorph floated in zero gravity, and Rhea immediately shot it dead. The acidic blood inside the xenomorph floated in the zero-gravity environment, not damaging the conveyor belt. After a flurry of gunfire, the air was filled with xenomorph corpses and remnants. They held onto the railing, carefully avoiding the acidic liquid, but in the zero-gravity environment, balance couldn't be maintained. and Rhea was about to drift towards the acid. She quickly fired bullets to maneuver away. Finally, they successfully entered the elevator, but without the gravity machine, it couldn't start. They let go, and floated in the elevator shaft. A xenomorph grabbed Rhea's ankle. She shot to free herself. The next second, the xenomorph's blood melted the iron door. Rhea's gun was knocked out of her hand. The zero-gravity environment was about to enter a countdown. Rhea hadn't had time to grab Andy before she began to fall downward. Then, the elevator followed her down. Andy immediately reached out to block the elevator. As Rhea fell, a xenomorph grabbed her. At this moment, the acidic blood on the conveyor belt burned through the floor. The entire space instantaneously decompressed. Rhea grasped the ladder. As the falling elevator smashed, the xenomorph back to the ground. Just as Rhea wondered why the xenomorph seemed to save her, a facehugger emerged from the shadows. It turned out that it wanted her to be a host for the parasite. In a moment of crisis, Andy arrived. He shot the xenomorph dead. The two escaped the crisis and returned to the ship before the countdown ended. Fortunately, Kay had been waiting in place. Rhea immediately initiated the piloting program. A second before the explosion occurred, they distanced themselves from the Renaissance. Rhea hurriedly placed Kay into the cryogenic chamber. Rook had already contacted the company. They would soon head to Jackson to retrieve the black water. Rhea suddenly turned off the autopilot. She didn't intend to follow Rook's plan. She was determined to take Andy and Kay to Awaja. As Rhea was about to enter the cryogenic capsule, Kay suddenly set off an alarm. Her stomach swelled within minutes. A creature slipped out of Kay's body. Rhea cut the umbilical cord and discarded it. She prepared to use fuel to kill the creature, but the baby had human characteristics. It was a new species formed by the fusion of black water and human DNA. It melted through the floor and fell to the lower level. Rhea chased after her with a weapon on her back, but the grown new species, the offspring, had returned to the sleep chamber. Andy was powerless to stop this terrifying creature. It lunged at its mother to suckle. This scene echoed the close-ups in The Plague of Marseille. By the time Rhea ran back, it was already too late. She hurriedly shot at it. Rhea couldn't drag the malfunctioning Andy to escape. Rhea could only dash out of the sleep chamber and shut the door. At this moment, the temperature inside the ship was rapidly dropping. Rhea put on her protective suit. Then she ran to the lower level of the ship. She had just secured her safety line when the offspring came chasing after her. Rhea kicked away the placenta, and the corrosive liquid burned through the last layer of the floor. Both of them were sucked into the breach. Rhea was safe, hanging by the rope. She tried to grasp the rope to climb back. Rhea was grabbed by the head by the offspring. The creature had no rope, but had tentacles. Its tongue slammed against her helmet. In the end, Rhea successfully shook off the offspring and saved her life. She climbed safely back to the ship. Rhea activated the autopilot mode. She placed the malfunctioning Andy into the cryogenic chamber. Then she lay down next to him, hoping they would safely reach their destination in 7 years. The film ends here. There are no philosophical reflections, no complex plot. It's just a simple and brutal battle for survival. The protagonist's observation and reflexes were strong throughout. It reminded people of Ripley. Rhea's traversal through the floating acid to defeat the xenomorph was also very imaginative, including the offspring suckling from the mother, leading to her death was deeply shocking.